Do you think prison made you a better person?
Hard for me to say, Jeremy. I'm always suspicious of people who claim to be better people. It certainly was a broadening experience, I can say that. And it was, in a way, a humbling one, so that's normally good for us. So I suppose I would say yes, but I don't want to give your viewers the impression that I'm trumpeting myself as an altogether made-over virtuous person.
Not at all. I mean, you deny all the charges against you, don't you?
They're rubbish, and anyone can see they're rubbish.
But you are a convicted fraudster.
No, I'm not. In the first place, under British and Canadian rules, none of this would stand up. We got rid of all the counts, and we had the prosecuting statute declared unconstitutional.
But when you read the remarks of the judges, for example, the judge in Delaware, that you are evasive and unreliable.
That was not a criminal case, and that was a completely, just a minute, that was a completely fallacious judgment that was, in fact, absolutely defied by the jurors.
It is the opinion of a judge.
Oh,
and you have been convicted.
Will you stop this bourgeois priggishness? You're talking as if
what's bourgeois priggishness? You're a criminal.
No, I'm not a criminal. Do you think a British court would have behaved like this? Do you think a British court would wait a second, would throw 17 counts, racketeering, money laundering, all of this, have all of it thrown out, everything, the Supreme Court or equivalent in this country, denouncing the lower court judges as idiots, the infirmity of invented law, and then telling them...
You just misunderstood what was legal.
Everything I did was legal. I didn't misunderstand any of it. It was a smear job from A to Z. Because 99.5% of prosecutions in the U.S. are convicted. The whole system is a fraudulent, fascistic conveyor belt of the corrupt prison system. That's why. Let me tell you something. The 5% of the population of the world are Americans. 25% of the incarcerated people are, and 50% of the lawyers are. 99.5% conviction rate.
This sits very
6 to 12 times as many incarcerated people per capita as Britain, Canada, Australia, France, Germany, or Japan. How do you explain that?
I don't think I have to answer that question.
Give it a try.
Why?
Before you accuse me of being a criminal, give it a try.
You are a criminal. You're a convicted criminal.
No, you're a fool. You're just a gullible fool. You're a priggish, gullible British fool who takes seriously this ghastly American justice system that any sane English person knows is an outrage.
This sits very oddly, doesn't it, with your protestation that you're a Roman Catholic? I mean, don't you do penitence?
I do. I do, and I believe in the punishment of crime, as well as the confession of wrongdoing.
Do you not think that a man who has been found guilty by due process of law ought to be slightly penitent?
If it is, in fact, due process. There was no due process of law in that. You see, Jeremy, your problem is you have no idea how that system operates. And as influential a journalist as you are, should know something about it.
You're the one who chose to locate his business there.
I did, yes.
And what, you were just foolish or what?
In fact, I'd say that's slightly overstating it, but I made a mistake. I underestimated the venality and corruption of the American legal system. I confess to that. I'm very penitent about it, too.
What astonishes, or what will astonish, I suspect, our viewers, is that a man who's been through all of this should show no humility and no shame.
Of course not. I've been persecuted half to death. I don't have any shame. I am proud of what happened. I'm proud of having been in a U.S. federal prison and survived it as well as I did. I had no problems with anyone, not in the regime and not amongst the fellow residents. Let me tell you something. I am proud of having gone through the terribly difficult process of being falsely charged, falsely convicted, and ultimately almost completely vindicated without losing my mind, becoming irrational, ceasing to be a penitent and reasonable person, and actually being able to endure a discussion like this without getting up and smashing your face in, which is what most people would do if they'd been through what I have been.
Well, you go ahead and do.
No, I don't believe in violence.
Do you expect to be able to retain your seat in the House of Lords as well?
Well, why not? I'm not under...
Because you're a convicted criminal.
First of all, there is not a prohibition on a convicted criminal sitting in that House.
But you don't really believe that a man who's done time in prison should be able to help frame the laws of a country, do you?
Sure.
You do believe that?
Indeed. If he's either if there's a question about his guilt in the first place, say it was a person convicted in North Korea or something. I mean, on that theory, Nelson Mandela couldn't sit. But if I were you, I'd be careful of being such a gullible rubber stamp to that crooked American system. And in the second place,
so you think a convicted paedophile, for example, should be able to sit in the House of Lords and make laws on child protection? You don't.
That is not what I said.
No.
Now, if you ask it in those terms,
you want to judge.
If he was a legitimately convicted pedophile, I would say there were serious problems about him sitting in a legislative body.
The legal process is about determining whether people are justly convicted or acquitted, isn't it? But you put yourself above that, don't you?
No, I do not.
Well,
I put myself in the camp of Henry David Thoreau, who said that in a society that routinely sends innocent people to prison, the place for innocent people is in prison. The idea that I would sit there in a public company and steal $285,000, that's what they're down to. And they don't even claim it's a theft. They don't even claim it's a fraud. They claim it's an improper reception of money that was voted by the directors and published as a fact. That is what you were waxing so sanctimonious about.
Does having a very extravagant wife make that sort of behavior more likely?
Oh, God, I'm going to throw up. After 7 years, my first morning back in Britain, am I to be subjected to this? She wasn't extravagant. And she's a magnificent wife. And she visited me every week in prison, even when she had to come back from China to do it.
Why did you suddenly start spending so much money then?
I didn't start spending so much money. I was a well-to-do man. I spent in accord with my means, and my means went up.
So if I understand you correctly, you're a man traduced.
Absolutely. And if I may, and I mean, again, I've been a bit forceful with you. I want to disabuse any of your viewers the idea that I think I'm always right. I made some terrible mistakes, but not ethical mistakes. Not ethical mistakes. And certainly not acts of theft.